Hello everyone, and welcome to the second ever episode of Catch Up Chaos. I've got about 6 albums to go through, and I don't know if I explained it properly in the first episode, but yeah, it's basically just a bunch of albums I sort of missed that I didn't want to tack on to Music of the Month because I hate giving myself more work. So, by my logic, I decided, let's make a new video series that'll subtract from that particular workload. But yeah, so about 6 albums to go through from varying periods of time in 2020, and may as well just move on with it. So our first one is Cloud Nothings with the Black Hole and Stands. Now, these are a band that haven't been around long, but this is like their 7th album, I think, so they put in a lot of work. They've only been around for like 11 years, and 7 albums is quite a lot for that admittedly sort of short time period. But yeah, it's just a pretty solid slice of indie sort of leaning rock. I give it a B-. There are parts of it that do repeat, and it is quite it does try to tell a pretty good story with its lyrics, I will give it that, and it's performed nicely enough. The production does blur it slightly. It does have some moments that could be improved, but it is still a pretty good album, and it still holds up well, and these are a band that I will have to probably go over their old stuff maybe at some point, I don't know. I say that a lot and never actually do it, but yeah. Next is Concrete, or Con-Crete, with Free Us From Existence. This is a hardcore sort of metal-y album. Pretty miserable, even, in case you can judge from the album title, Free Us From Existence, and 2020 being the year it is. Yeah, this was pretty solid, actually. I'm giving this one a B. It's got some... It is short, but it's actually quite nicely produced despite its style. It's got, like, a really raw, guttural feeling to it. The lead singer actually sounds pretty good for this kind of style. Nothing unique, exactly, but considering how much of the style I've heard this year, much like with every other year, it's still a really good effort from these guys, and they are still a pretty new band, so I will give them the benefit of the doubt there. So yeah, I think a B is the best rating I can give it. Just good instrumentally, really good structurally, even though it's quite short. Fairly enjoyable, just keeps a good pace up throughout the entirety of its length, which isn't long, but it's worth it. Next is Koriki with their self-titled debut. Now, Koriki actually consists of former members of the Evens and Fugazi, two of the most legendary art punk leaning bands ever, and yeah, this album is just sort of that style. I never really listened to a lot of either of those two bands, but judging from this album, I might have to do that. This one also gets a B. I actually thought this was really enjoyable. It does go to some weird places experimentally, and I get that that's the art punk part of it taking over. Some of it fits and some of it doesn't. That's always been the problem with arty styles of alternative music, but for the most part it does actually work really well. There's a bit of silly stuff, but it's a good silly, and it's it is a very punk rock feeling album, if that makes any sense. And everyone involved sounds great, so good stuff. Next is one I sort of purposefully skipped in September, Machine Gun Kelly with Tickets to My Downfall. So Machine Gun Kelly, obviously a lot better known as a rapper. I think this might be the biggest album I've ever covered for one of these videos, or at least one of the biggest albums I've ever covered for Music of the Month / Catch Up Chaos, and I'm giving it a C+. Now, that's not a bad C+, though, because the dude actually performs quite well, and he can put together a pretty decent pop-punk hook. The problem is, he just read, like, a book of the most basic pop-punk principles and decided, I'm just going to do all that. So, it's whiny, it's got basic-ass lyrics. It's also structured really weirdly as well. There's, like, it's just compacted strangely. There's, like, 15 songs, and there shouldn't really be that many. And considering that this is the #1 album, and actually, weirdly enough, his first #1 album, none of his rap-leaning stuff actually ever reached that point. The fact that that's his this is his #1 album, and I'm giving it a C+, is a bit strange. I know that, but it is an odd one. It's a very odd one, but it's still good in some places. There are some pretty enjoyable tracks. There's some really good guest spots, especially the song Forget Me Too featuring Halsey, which is maybe my favourite song on the album. Yeah, it's just a weird one. It's nothing too new, even for like the genre, even for rappers attempting it. But he seems to have a basic grasp of it, and I was very worried it was going to be a lot worse, so I'm not going to judge it too harshly. Next is The Neighbourhood with Chip Chrome and the Monotones. The Neighbourhood are a sort of newer indie act that have been getting sort of a bit of buzz. None of their albums have actually been received as quite good, but apparently this one is just sort of an idea for them. I can sort of agree. I'm only giving it a C though, because while it is a bit bland in places, it does at least sort of attempt something new with its weird indie pop sort of thing. It's not like, it just doesn't feel special, I guess you could say. It's just weird, but I think the weirdness is also the best part of it, because I would probably forget this album existed otherwise, and while the album itself is a bit of a dragged out snooze fest, it's mercifully short despite being as dragged out as it is. But yeah, this is just a fucking weird album, but it's still okay. I mean, it's, once again, it's just another genre I've had the unfortunate pleasure of hearing so many fucking times this year, and it's not the band's fault. It's alright, it's nothing great, and I feel like their earlier stuff might be a bit better than this. It's just way too much of a deviation from their normal stuff, if that's anything to go by, judging by what my friend Graves told me, so yeah, it's weird, so C. And finally, we have Wire with Mindhive. Now, Wire is a band that have sort of been around for 40 odd years, but they've broken up twice. This is their 17th album, I believe. And they're one of the progenitors, apparently, of post-punk and the odd punk style that goes along with it. And they're known for being a bit of a weird band. Now, my friend Raimundo recommended that I check these guys out, and I found out that they have a new album. I was like, oh, I'll listen to it. They have technically another album, I'd say, but that's just like a compilation thing, so I'm not going to bother listening to that for this year. But this one, Mindhive, is actually consisting of new original material by them, so yeah. And it's a bit of an odd duck, but from what I've heard, this band is apparently quite a strange band to listen to, and yet they still have a really good punk energy to them. Like, it feels really nice and post-punky. It does the genre it's trying to do quite well, because this band is one of the bands responsible for the development of the genre back when it first started sparking, like, ages ago. And yeah, they still sound really fucking good at it. I mean, I've never listened to a Wire album before this, but I feel like if this is something that they created, then they're still really good at doing it. So it is getting a B. I'm tempted to give it something higher, but once again, it's just a weird album. In fact, a lot of the albums I've listened to for this particular episode of Catch Up Chaos have been really, really strange, but once again, it's that good strange. And that'll about do it for this episode of Catch Up Chaos. I really do hope you enjoyed it. I know there wasn't a lot of albums, but that's the entire point of the show, is just to take the stuff that sort of came a bit late for me, or that I was putting off for a bit because I didn't want to add more, and then doing it for another time. So, with that in mind, I will see you all. Okay, but before I go, I should try and recommend something. I would probably recommend Corey Key's album the most out of the ones I listen to. Maybe. I don't know. But I will actually try and sign off now, so I'll see you all hopefully tonight for PBW. And yeah, basically the next thing I'll see for that, after tonight, will probably be The Very Brief History of No Doubt. Actually, yeah, no, I still have like 4 albums to write about, but I should be able to get that video out, or the next Friday Night review, by next Sunday if there's a Friday Night review. That one is probably more likely. So I'll see you all for that, and as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.